Monty Oum grew up in Providence, Rhode Island, and was super into Halo and Red vs. Blue. He got into animation during school, when the animation program Poser just happened to be on a Mac in the school's computer lab. So he copied the program on his zip disks and brought it home to play around with. He had a hard time with Poser at first, but he was determined to learn how to use it. Animating at home, animating at school, animating at night, basically any second he could spare, he spent learning how to use it. And this specific animation software was what Monty would use years later to make RWBY. But animation stayed as only a hobby for him because he was actually interested in working in the film industry. So he moved out to New York and then to California to try acting, while still learning how to animate with Poser. Unfortunately, none of his attempts to get into film worked, and he had to move back to Rhode Island, back in with his parents, where he had to work multiple jobs to make ends meet. But it wasn't all bad, because at this point, Monty had been animating with Poser for years and was really good with it. So he thought, well, acting didn't work, but maybe I can try making stuff using this. During this time, internet videos were getting really popular, especially on websites like Newgrounds. Man, remember this website? Fun fact about me, Newgrounds is how I got introduced to hentai, so thanks Newgrounds. So Monty got to work, making videos with this crazy action-packed style, and would spend months and months animating his videos. The problem was that Monty wanted to make original stuff with completely original ideas and characters, but no one watched them because they didn't know the characters and didn't care about them. So Monty had to compromise and had to make something using already popular characters that people knew and loved. And that's where he got the idea for Haloid, a fighting animation mashup of Halo and Metroid. So he started working. While working at a job at Kinko's at the time, he would animate all day, then stay up all night still animating. He slaved away like this for 2 entire months, but he finally finished it, and in 2007, uploaded it to Game Trailers, where the internet saw it for the first time, and this was their reaction. You look at this, and at first, it just looks like any simple animated video, like, psh, you know, just a generic whatever internet video. Who cares? But then, this happens. So at first, it looked just like any random internet video, but it turned out to be this crazy thing with action and guns and explosions and hot babes and blackjack and hookers. And everyone was like, whoa, this is crazy good. Needless to say, Haloid was pretty cool, and when Monty posted it on Game Trailers, it instantly went viral. It was getting millions of hits online and started spreading like wildfire across the internet, with people asking, who is this Monty guy and how did he animate this? And one of those people was me. Being a huge Halo fan, I loved it. I actually didn't know who Samus was at the time, but I was intrigued by the, action. I really can't overstate how insanely popular this got. Even if you weren't a Halo or Metroid fan, if you were on the internet and you liked video games, either you watched this or you knew someone who watched this, because no one had ever seen anything like this before, and to know that it was animated by one person made it seem even more amazing. And it wasn't just people who were impressed, it was also companies. Game developers like Midway Games contacted Monty asking for him to work for them, wanting him to design their combat. And another company that was interested in Monty was none other than Rooster Teeth, who saw Haloid and were insanely impressed, becoming Monty fanboys. At the time, Red vs. Blue was around season 5, and Bernie was afraid of the show getting stagnant and was looking for ways to change it up and bring new life into the story. And as soon as he saw Haloid, he instantly knew that this was exactly what they needed, and that they needed to hire Monty and get him working on Red vs. Blue right now. And this would come to happen, because Monty went to Anime Boston in 2007, which is where Gus and Esther were. And through Gus and Esther, Monty got into contact with Bernie, who told Monty that they wanted him to work on Red vs. Blue. And Monty, who is a huge Red vs. Blue fanboy, loved the idea. So you're probably thinking, this is perfect. This is how Monty got hired. Monty, a super talented animator and combat designer, gets a job offer from Rooster Teeth to animate and design combat. It's his dream come true. But this isn't how Monty got hired, because he actually turned Rooster Teeth down, and instead started working for Midway. We'll get into why later. So he moved to Chicago to start developing an unreleased game for Midway Games. He wasn't at all experienced in game development, nor did he have training in the programs that they used, but the reason they hired him was because they wanted his ideas. Midway wanted him to be their combat designer, basically writing and directing fight sequences, while developers who were actually trained in game development put his fighting ideas into the actual game. Midway Games, by the way, later became NetherRealm, the developers of the modern Mortal Kombat games and Injustice games. The game that Monty worked on never got released though, which is pretty sad. But during his time there, he kept animating more stuff like Haloid in his free time and created Dead Fantasy, which, like Haloid, was a crossover fight video, but instead of being Halo and Metroid, it was characters from Dead or Alive and Final Fantasy. Dead Fantasy also got extremely popular and got him even more opportunities because it caught the attention of the art director at Namco Games, the developers of the Pac-Man, Tekken, and Ace Combat games. So after a year of working at Midway, in around 2008, Monty packed up and left Chicago to move to California and work for Namco. At Namco, he worked on a pretty cool game with a really interesting mechanic, which was real-time slicing. This means that you could slice a person with a sword, and the person's body would stay sliced in that way. That game was Afro Samurai, which came out in 2009. So if you played Afro Samurai, you played a game that Monty helped design. But while Monty loved video games, it wasn't where he was the happiest. Because Monty was all about efficiency, so he can make as many awesome things as he possibly could, and he felt that game development was just taking up too much time. So after a year at Namco, he decided to leave game development and go back into film. The entire time Monty was working on video games, Bernie thought, "Oh, that's so disappointing. We offered to hire Monty, but we missed our opportunity and he didn't want to work with us." But it turns out, Monty actually loved the idea of working on Red vs. Blue and actually wanted to work with Rooster Teeth. It's just when Rooster Teeth said, "Hey, we want to hire you," Monty didn't know that they were offering him a job. He thought that they were just having a nice chat.
I had no idea you were trying to hire me. Or like,
So Monty heard this.
"Monty, we want to work with you. We love Haloid. It's great."
And thought, "Nah, they don't want to hire me." What? But this changed in 2009 when Monty started talking to the Rooster Teeth crew again. At the time, they were working on Red vs. Blue Season 7. But this season was different because this time it wasn't being directed by Bernie. It was being directed by a young British boy all the way from Tame in Oxfordshire, England. The reason Gavin was directing this time was because, like before, Bernie didn't want Red vs. Blue to get stagnant, so he brought Gavin in to bring some fresh ideas to the show. So with Gavin directing, Bernie was able to go to a Comic-Con panel he was invited to. And as soon as he saw that Monty was going to be on that panel, Bernie knew that he had to be there, being a huge Monty fanboy. But on the other side, Monty really didn't feel like going to the panel. But as soon as he saw that Bernie was going to be there, Monty, being a huge Bernie fanboy, knew he had to go. And when they both met at the panel, they finally cleared up the misunderstanding, and Monty finally accepted the job offer from Rooster Teeth.
And we started talking.
Yep.
And that's when I said, Monty, I always regret the fact that we couldn't hire you when we tried to last time. And Monty says,
I was like, "You were trying to hire me? I thought we were just talking."
And what's interesting about this is that Bernie normally wouldn't have gone to the panel. But the reason he was able to was now he had enough time to go since Gavin took over directing Red vs. Blue. So, if it wasn't for Gavin flying over from England to help out, Monty wouldn't have been hired at Rooster Teeth. After getting hired, the first thing that Monty worked on in Red vs. Blue was in Season 7 with the famous laser face scene.
"What in the hell is that thing? Oh, son of a... My name is Leonard Church, and you will fear my laser face!"
But this wasn't the limit of what Monty could do, so he started working on some special changes to the animation of Red vs. Blue. But even though Monty was pretty famous amongst their audience, Rooster Teeth actually never publicly revealed that they had hired him because they wanted his work to be a big reveal. So for half a year, Monty kept toiling away, working, and animating his big, mysterious, unknown scenes in Red vs. Blue. And finally, after months and months of animating, Season 8 was done and they were ready for the big reveal for the audience. At PAX East, Rooster Teeth fans from all around the world gathered to watch the sneak peek of the new RWBY season. And fans were watching the show that they knew and loved, having a good time and laughing like usual, but this time, something was different, because now, Monty was here. For years, Red vs. Blue was animated using machinima techniques, meaning they used the actual game to play out the story, so they had to do things like bob the heads up and down to talk, and use in-game weapons to act out the action scenes. And this type of animation was what the fans were used to seeing. But then, all of a sudden, this happened.
What? Wait, what are you up to? What is that noise? Do I hear
Here, Rooster Teeth revealed their new secret weapon, Monty Oum, the creator of Haloid and Dead Fantasy, meaning now Red vs. Blue wouldn't be just machinima, it would also have the trademark Monty Oum CG action. And, fun fact, during the Monty reveal, in that crowd was none other than a young Jack Patillo, who had recently been hired by Rooster Teeth. And Monty's fight scenes became crazy popular with the audience, with the text fight scene still being one of the most viewed videos on the Rooster Teeth channel. So Monty's work on Red vs. Blue brought this show into a whole new era, changing Red vs. Blue and Rooster Teeth animation forever. Years passed, and after making Red vs. Blue for a while, Bernie said, "Monty, this show's going great, and your animation's awesome, but is there anything that you want to do that's new?" And Monty said, "Let me show you this idea I have." And what he showed Bernie was a concept for a scythe that turned into a gun. And when Bernie saw this, he was immediately on board. So Monty got to work on the concepts for the new show, which he wanted to be an action animated show with characters based around colors. Very original, I know. After this, he made the RWBY Red trailer as a test concept, so this trailer was actually the first animated RWBY thing. He wanted the show to be anime inspired and to be about the growth of 4 teenage girls who grow up to be a team and work together. And he wanted these girls to represent red, white, black, and yellow. And thus, RWBY was born. And yes, that's RWBY with a W, because they couldn't find a color that starts with U. There's actually quite a few, but I don't know if red, black, yellow, and Uranus would sound as nice. But nah, we'll just go with RWBY with a W. It'll be fine. No one will ever get confused by that, right? But the show released with Monty directing and designing the fights, and Miles and Carrie bringing life to the story and the characters. And like with Haloid, Dead Fantasy, and Red vs. Blue's fight scenes, RWBY, unsurprisingly, was also insanely popular. So popular that it brought in a very specific group of people to Rooster Teeth. No, not gamers, not even furries.
What is it? More brutes?
Worse.
Oh god. 変なね、素直はわからないよ。でも、フィオナ以外は、彼女は美しいよね。But anyway, the massive success of RWBY gave a whole new popularity to Rooster Teeth, and Monty, once again, helped bring in a new era to the company and a new generation of fans. In early 2015, Monty had a severe allergic reaction during a medical procedure, which led to him losing consciousness and going into a coma. While in a coma, he was surrounded by his friends and family, and doctors who tried to help him recover. But a week later, Monty passed away on February 1st, 2015. He was 33 years old. They were in the middle of making the next volume of RWBY. Left behind was his wife Sheena. They had married the previous year and were inseparable. Sheena, Monty's family, and the Rooster Teeth crew were heartbroken and devastated over losing their friend, with even people outside Rooster Teeth and its community recognizing that the internet had just lost someone very special. So the Rooster Teeth community and the internet as a whole pay their respects to a legend taken far too soon. Rooster Teeth asked that instead of sending flowers and gifts, the fans should instead do something creative to honor his imaginative drive. I know I'm a couple years late, but I hope that this video was creative enough to do him justice. It's like his wife Sheena said, don't be sad for those who have passed, for it's those left behind who must continue on, and sadness isn't something they would have wanted. So to pay our respects to Monty, instead of being sad that he's gone, let's instead look at what he was able to do with the time that he did have, to inspire us, because I think that's probably what he would have wanted. He created an animated video that took over the internet and redefined what a single creator could do. He brought in a new age of animation at Rooster Teeth with his work on Red vs. Blue. He helped Rooster Teeth reach new heights in its popularity with RWBY, bringing in a whole new generation of fans. And he also got Meg and Gavin together. Meg was interested in Gavin, but Meg's a girl, so Gavin was scared to talk to her. And despite Gavin's best efforts to run away from Meg, Monty persisted and got the two of them together. And now, they've been together for 8 years, because Monty knew that they'd make each other happy. So his spirit and the messages he embodied lives on through the things he's worked on, the things he's made, and the people at Rooster Teeth, many of whom wouldn't have found their happiness if it weren't for him. And you know, they say you're never really dead until the world's forgotten about you. And if that's true, then Monty, I think you're gonna be around for a very long time.